Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bookies. I'm Bear. Thanks for clicking on the thumbnail. Here's a question for you. Have you ever wished you could live inside of a book? Have you ever even thought about that? And if you could, what book would you choose to live in and why? For me, it's Hobbiton. I could see myself living in Middle Earth with some conditions. I get to take my wife and my kids, and none of the bad things in Middle Earth get to come to Hobbiton. And I spend every day picnicking with my family, and the kids are playing in the stream. And every day is a warm summer day, and I sit on that blanket and I eat food with my wife. And I might even do a very Hobbit-like thing and smoke a pipe because there's no cancer in Hobbiton. And that's it for me. Kind of simple. It's a simple life. It's not complicated. And, I am kind of interested to see what you come up with. And so if you want to share in the comments, I would love that. Let's talk a little bit about this novel, The Astral Library by Kate Quinn. Our main character is Alex Watson. She's 26 years old. She's kind of friendless. She's about to be homeless. She's in the store and she's doing some poverty math. Poverty math is math you do when you maybe have $30 and you kind of picked a bunch of stuff off the shelves and you calculate, hopefully it'll come in about $28, $29. You want to have a little cushion there so you don't have to take anything back because that's very humiliating. That's poverty math. And oh boy, have I done a lot of poverty math in my life. And that's why you should go to college, kids. Get yourself an education so you don't do poverty math. But frankly, I still do the poverty math. You can't get it out of your system. So Alex is doing poverty math and she's thinking about her favorite place, the Boston Public Library. And why? Because you can stay all day at the library, your happy place, and nobody's going to ask you to buy a thing. Nobody's going to tell you to move on because you haven't bought a thing. And that is the wonderful thing about libraries, and it's my segue into inviting you to subscribe to this channel because when this channel does get monetized, I'm gonna give all that money to local libraries. So, clever hook, I got you there. Please subscribe. All right, for real, I'm gonna talk about the book. Published on February 17th, 2026, The Astral Library imagines a library that has every book ever written in it. Isn't that phenomenal? You know how much knowledge was lost when the Library of Alexandria burned down? Oh, so it's going to have all knowledge in it. And it's going to be accessed from any library. So if you have a library down the street from you, you could walk into that and end up at the Astral Library. The other really cool thing is the Astral Library is going to look exactly the way that you imagine it. And for me, it's College Library in the Powell Library building. And you would have saw that on the thumbnail, and I'll put a picture here, boop, because I actually worked there when I was an undergraduate at UCLA. That's what the Astral Library looks like for me. But can I go? That's the question. And the answer is, I don't know, because you really need to be in a bad place in your life. And I'm not right now, so I probably don't get to go to the Astral Library. But Alex is. She's desperate for community, friendship, love, security. She's desperate for all those things, and she gets an invite to the Astral Library. The Astral Library, where so long as you're in the library and not in a book, because that's where you enter any book in the world, with some exceptions we'll talk about, as long as you're in there, time stands still, time advances while you're in a book. But every library has rules. I used to enforce those rules when I worked at the library. I kind of hated it. Hey, don't put your feet on that. You can't sleep here, blah, blah, blah. No food or drink, on and on and on. This library has rules that are a little bit more challenging, and they are as follows. First, you don't get to go into any book. It has to be in the public domain. So a book that's got a current copyright, you don't get to enter. So I could not enter Westeros, and I don't know why I would enter Westeros because I'd probably just end up dead, but I couldn't, okay? I could enter Sherlock Holmes, I could enter The Scarlet Letter, but no Westeros for me. The Song of Ice and Fire is off limits. Next rule, you don't get to be the main character. So when you enter Jane Eyre, you don't get to be Jane Eyre. When you enter Tom Sawyer, you don't get to be Tom Sawyer. You will be put in as kind of a supporting role. You are an observer. You're living in it, and you're going to be giving everything that you need to live in that book, but you can't be the main character because you don't get to change the story. So for example, I couldn't enter Hawthorne's Young Goodman Brown and then decide that I am going to save my wife from, all the horrors of those witches hanging out in the New England woods, and the novel's going to become Young Bear DeWalt. That's the way I want it. Well, I can't get there in the Astral Library. It's going to stay Young Goodman Brown, and I'm probably just going to be the guy that lives next door. The next thing I want you to know is, even though many patrons may enter the same book, each instance of that book is solo. What that means is if I were lucky enough to get the invite, I'm not going because, I don't get to take my wife and kids. The last thing you should know is at the end of the book, you can choose to stay or leave. You get total optionality there. And you could live your whole life in that book and never leave if you wanted to. Or you could jump out and enter another book. The choice is completely yours. Moving on now, I want to talk about Alex Watson a little bit more. I already introduced her to you, but I kind of want to flesh her character out because I think Kate Quinn's done a really good job of making Alex interesting. First, we already know Alex is poor. She's down on her luck. She's kind of an average girl. I mean, she's not beautiful, but she's whip smart and she's snarky. And I love that kind of sarcasm with her. She's very well read. She's read all the classics. And unlike me, when she reads it, it stays in her head. For me, I read a book and it's gone. But Alex has kind of this memory where she can recall the plot points of just about any classic novel, and that's going to serve her well in this particular Astral Library. And I've already mentioned that she's broke, but she is working hard. She's got 3 jobs, and I don't know how she finds time to read with 3 jobs, but she does. One of those jobs is doing a little bookkeeping for a gentleman by the name of Beau. And Beau has this kind of anachronistic shop where he tailors period pieces for people to wear to costume balls and stuff like that. And yes, you probably noticed that I went out of my way to mention Beau, because there is a little bit of a romance element to this novel.
Are you trying to trick me? Is this a kissing book?
As a matter of fact, it is a kissing book, a little bit. It's not overdone. So I'll give you an example. Alex is going to be rather infatuated with Beau. Beau's different, and he's kind of good looking, and he wears like this clothes that he tailors, and he's interesting, and he reads books, and he's way out of her league, but he seems to really like her. And it kind of gives me flashbacks of Twilight, because if you can believe it, I read every one of those books. Oh, I can't believe it. He's so popular. Why does he like me? I'm nothing. That kind of thing. There's a little bit of that, and it's kind of cloying, but it's not overdone. This is a no spoiler review, so I'm not going to get into detail, but I'll just say that the Astral Library comes under attack, and Alex, with all of her knowledge of literature, is going to be vitally helpful in defending the Astral Library. And it might even involve skipping through a lot of very familiar books and kind of inhabiting those worlds and moving on and moving in and out. Kind of fun. This book is fun. And of course, her love interest, Beau, is going to kind of help her, and he'll probably be wearing something that, I don't know, he cobbled together out of Dickens or whatever. I think you get the point. I think you'll enjoy the supporting cast as well. I mean, I already mentioned Beau, but there is the librarian, and she's kind of everything you would expect in a librarian. 70 years old, wears cardigan sweaters, shushes people a lot. She's every librarian that ever yelled at you in a library for talking too loud. And there are some other characters that make an appearance in this novel that add a interesting fantasy element. Apparently, you can inhabit more than a book. So go find out. And here's what you need to know. The characters are really well crafted, and this story is a fun read. And if I had one desire, I would have liked to spend more time in a particular novel rather than jumping from novel to novel. There's an element of this that kind of reads like a chase, and so you don't get to spend a lot of time in one novel. I would have liked that, but that's just a preference. It doesn't mean that the author has made a poor choice, just a personal preference for me. I do have one slight criticism, and that is it would have been nice to see Quinn find a different resolution to the problems proposed in the novel. Having staffed hundreds and hundreds of public meetings, including meetings for libraries, yeah, it's probably not the most exciting venue to resolve conflict. Just saying. I found the Astral Library to be a very cozy read. And what I mean by that is you don't have to think a lot when you read this. It's just a very pleasant, super creative story. You know, you don't have to tease out any kind of themes. There's no hierarchy of values in this novel. None of that. It's just a good story. Grab yourself some food and some coffee, park your butt on the couch, and read this novel because I think you'll really enjoy it. The Astral Library is the perfect palate cleanser for that terrible book you just read, or that super violent book you just read, or the complicated book you just read. The Astral Library will cure all those ills. I give the Astral Library 4 stars out of 5. It's not the greatest book you're ever going to read, but it's a really, really good book, and it's far above average. And I personally am very glad that my own library had a copy so I could borrow it. Right about now, you're going to see a picture of me when I was a naval officer, and if you click on that, you can subscribe to the channel. I'll also provide a thumbnail you can click on for my book review of The Correspondent, because that also was a very, very good novel and very different than the Astral Library. It's not a fantasy. It's different, but it's exceptional. With that, everybody have a great day and God bless.